Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Wise, and I'm going to share a little bit of a song with you before we start lecture because I'm asking you to share in this week's forum a lot of what you're doing, and I hope you'll be willing to do that. So this is a song that has lyrics, and that's unusual for me because most of mine don't. They're mainly instrumentals. It's called 2 Times Better. We are 2 times better when we are one. Together we're much greater than a song. We are 2 times better when we are one. Let no one break apart what we have become. It's a simple matter that the heart knows best. Defying understanding, yes, and common sense. Me minus you is a broken heart, a piece of a puzzle without all the parts. Oh, that's enough of that. Okay, so later on we'll do more of that. But let me get my book so that I can talk to you a little bit. So here are some really just practical recommendations on doing well in the course and on tests and on papers and everything. Take out your highlighter, take out your pen, make marginal notes, do a lot of highlighting, do a lot of rereading, key in on those elements of short stories. For lots of reasons, they really help you dig into the structure of the story, the work of literature, whatever, even if it's a different genre. But you want to really key in on those for many, many reasons, one of which is it's going to help you when you come to writing about a short story to really know what you're dealing with when you deal with theme, which is one of the most exciting concepts we have. So anyway, starts out art of fiction being related to counterfeiting. But yet, I mean, here's the question that I like to ask about that, and that is that if that is so, how about the truth in so much fiction that you read? What are the deeper understandings that you gain from a story that may well have been made up, but yet you see maybe a slice of your life or someone else's reflected, and you have this sense that you have had a discovery take place, that you've had, the term is epiphany, that you've had an epiphany, maybe based on a character's epiphany. You know, even Sammy in A&P seems to have maybe a glimmer of insight come to him at the end of that story. Really is going to be different after that one act of telling Langle I quit, after doing what he did. For whatever reason, perhaps just to show off, perhaps to, for just a moment, be the hero, whatever it happens to be. But he does have this little epiphany, this sudden moment of insight. So we can have lots of those. And I wish you many epiphanies every day, or at least frequently throughout your week. So it goes into types of fiction, elements of the fable. Fables are fascinating, aren't they? And a fable in some ways is a precursor, right, to the short story in the sense that while there isn't a developed theme that is hinted at, that you have to dig for as a reader and articulate as part of your interaction with the story, it's not spelled out for you, there is a moral in the fable. Which is in some ways bears some resemblances to theme, right? It's not as rich and complex, but it tells you point blank. Aesop will tell you point blank. Well, this is the moral of the fable. So you have some rather fascinating ones, the tortoise and the geese, and while they're amusing, they're also illustrative of different behaviors, different psyches, different attitudes, you know. So the tortoise blows it, doesn't he? Yeah. he wasn't supposed to talk, and he got ticked off, and there it went, let it fly, and so went the tortoise, shattered into pieces. We can't go through all these. Obviously, you need to do that, but I have to admire independence, the Chuang Tzu little fable there, isn't it? Because he'd rather wag his tail in the mud than play the game, play the social game so that he is in a position to be upwardly mobile by boot polishing, by flattering, and by sacrificing what's most important to him, his freedom. So, I don't know. All of us think about that probably quite a bit. Then you've got Godfather Death. Well, point of much of this is you can't outwit death. Plot is very important, right? So what's plot? It's like the blueprint of the story. It's a sequence of events, right? That you can definitely state about a story, summarize about a story. Rose for Emily has a very complex, rich plot that shifts back and forth in time, but obviously the essence of it is that at the end of the story, we know that Miss Emily has kept Homer in a state of preservation, well, not preservation, in a state of decay in her bed, that she has used that rat poison on Homer. The theme is something altogether different, though, isn't it? And I want us to make that distinction early on. The plot, the sequence of events, it's what happens in the story. And just as in A&P, you can summarize what happens, that the girls walk in, the boss, Langle, into the grocery store, and the boss in New England, the boss thinks that is inappropriate, and, Sammy takes his stand and quits. That's all plot. But there may be an implied theme having to do with the caste system, the idea that different classes, especially in New England society, are expected to behave differently and are given different rank and privileges and so on. And there may have something to do with adolescence in the theme that you can dig for there in terms of a growth process involving Sammy's maturation. Certainly it might have something to do with the consequences of taking a stand. But all of that, develops around some kind of statement of theme. And when it comes to Rose for Emily, you have this sense, perhaps in the story, that the industrialized North and its carpetbagging invasion of the South to basically parasitically take over the South and derive benefits from the South is in a sense condemned too, alongside a stubborn refusal to accept change on the part of the Old South, and Emily's refusal to have the postbox numbers put up, and refusal to let go of the past, even to the point of clinging to Homer. Well, there's an implied theme there that perhaps you can really explore deeply, and it probably has to do with this notion that thoughtless, rampant progress without consideration for what perhaps was valuable in tradition, in the past, in history, is a devastating and destructive force when unleashed. But then so is this idea that, well, just because it's a change, that it is somehow a value, that it's somehow a positive because it happens to be new, because it happens to be different, because it happens to be a change. And that there is this sense that there must be some balance struck between just simply forging ahead without regard for the value of history in the past, and this idea that we're not going to accept the march of time, the changes that are inevitable. All right. So you have a lot of very rich detail in A&P, and you can certainly deal with the plot there. And, there's that classic plot Freytag pyramid. I know you've seen it. We have rising action, and then you have a climactic point, and then you have falling action, and then you have this, right, denouement, which is the unraveling. In other words, the resolution. Well, not all plots obviously work that way, and certainly Rose for Emily doesn't follow that kind of well drawn out schematic sort of pattern. The plot shifts back and forth in time, which can be confusing. But again, let me try to impress this on you. It doesn't mean that somehow there's something wrong with you if you reread parts of the story. It means you're actually respecting that story and the author's work. Maybe there are words that the first time around you didn't necessarily know, so you looked them up and it enriched your understanding, not only of the story, but expanded your vocabulary. Maybe it took 2, 3, 4 times of reading carefully through a passage or a part of the story or the story itself. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It means there's something right with you. It means that you are really respecting the value and the complexity of the work of literature that you are digging into. All right. So there's a great deal to be said about all of that, but that is something for another day. In part 2, you have point of view, and there are many, many points of view that you can deal with there, and you can become involved in all of that. Narrative points of view, limited, selective omniscience, and of course omniscience refers to the idea of being all-knowing, of knowing the goings-on of the inside of the character's mind. Then you have an objective, sort of a detached point of view, where you simply are in essence sort of telling the story, typical of Hemingway, for example, to have a rather detached point of view. Let the reader infer what from the conversation may be drawn, or what from the plot may be drawn out and inferred by the reader. But this is typical of many modern short stories to have a more objective tone. Raymond Carver is one that's well known for that. Stream of consciousness. This is the characters' oftentimes random thoughts, just the way mine are oftentimes. Yours are too sometimes, where you're thinking about 2 or 3 things almost at once, or while you're trying to concentrate on one event, and then others are flittering through your mind. Okay, so that can be, of course, depicted in literature rather amazingly, and we have numerous examples of that. Wow, one of which is Faulkner's As I Lay Dying, if you ever get a chance to read that. And you have some examples of that in your reading, even when we get to the Jilting of Granny Weatherall. All right, so you have this rather amazing story, Rose for Emily. And that's such an involved story that, and we're going to be writing about it, that I'll be talking to you more about that later. So I think I'll close for now, and just a way to get you started, and hope you're having a really good week, and I will talk to you soon. We'll be talking about Rose for Emily as we progress through the course, and as we lead to our first writing assignment, which will be started next week. Okay, well, signing off for now.